Hello, it's day 3. It's Nikki. Welcome. Thank you so much for being with me. If you haven't listened to day 1 and 2, please do so. Otherwise, you may not have any idea what I'm wanging on about. But if you're here, if you're up to speed, then let's get into today. So today is Sunday, and today I am recording this a day in advance for you. So you have it at midnight, because I know some of you are on the other side of the world to me. And so you listen, I set them to go live at midnight, and so you listen to them early. But today I needed a pottering day, and I announced this to my family this morning. And then, of course, my 5-year-old asked what a pottering day was. And I actually found it quite hard to articulate and also explain what I needed. And again, this seems a very full answer for a 5-year-old. But I said to him, I needed just to move things around. I needed to do some tidying. I needed to do some good cooking. I needed to get a bit organized for the week, sort of tying up loose ends, and also having that space and that time just to think about things and maybe sit down with a magazine. And I went all into this, and he was like, oh, okay, fine. Yeah, great. I'm sure he was like, I'm not really sure. I'm still no further, but there we go. And I explained the benefits of these pottering days, of being really grounded, and the idea that you can be with your thoughts and have that processing time. So yesterday we went into Hackney in East London, and we went to Broadway Market, and we went to London Fields, and we had a really lovely day. But I certainly felt like I'd had, especially because we haven't been places very much recently, I felt a bit overstimulated last night. I felt like I needed to go to sleep and just have some quiet time today. Anyway, the pottering started to move into decluttering, and I've been wanting to organise some wardrobes for a bit. I'm really understanding now a bit more where I'm going with my fashion. Oh my God, I can't believe I'm saying that. But, you know, it takes a while after having a baby going, what size am I? Who am I? What do I want to do? What do I want to get rid of? And I've been making some quite bold moves in our home and just being really discerning and really turning up the brightness on what I want in my life. And this is all connected as well with planning. So I think one of the traits that perhaps has been taught to us is this sense of saying, I don't mind, to be easygoing, to not to kick up a fuss, to go with the majority, not the minority, not to be the minority, but just to go with the flow and just be smiley and palatable and lovely and all of those things. And yes, there is a place for that in this world. You know, sometimes it is fine just to go, yep, cool, I'll go with the majority. We'll see what happens. But I don't want that to be the overall decision for your life in terms of you saying, I don't mind. Because it's too easy to stay in that headspace of I don't mind. Because ultimately, I believe, mainly as women, we have been conditioned to be pleasant and smiley and all those things that I've just mentioned. So when I really noticed that I was in this headspace of not necessarily getting all the things that I wanted to bring to me to get going, I was also operating in a place of I don't mind. And that spilled over into lots of different areas of my life. And I'm not saying my standards slipped, as in, you know, I was suddenly living in, I don't know, squalor or not cleaning my bed sheets or anything like that, because frankly, that makes me feel a bit weird. I am like, the sheets have to be cleaned once a week. I am that. I am a bit messy, but I'm certainly clean. That's another story for another time. But I noticed it in my boundaries and the way that I was operating slightly, that I was like, oh, I don't mind, or I was so accommodating in other ways. And I think this is definitely a work in progress, especially when we're thinking, where do you want to go next? And sometimes we can see these patterns revealing itself. And this is simply today an invitation for you to turn up the brightness and to pay attention and see what's going on. So I'm not going to be, even though I'm not a trained psychotherapist or a counselor or anything like that, I'm not going to say, just think positive, guys, just put in a boundary and you'll never have to be concerned with this again. Because actually, I don't believe that. I do believe that it is a journey. I do believe that it requires healing or professional help or taking the time to really understand what's going on. And I know when I've done this work in my own time, when there's suddenly been a coach going, just say no. I'm like, yeah, but when I say no, it brings up all these things, and then who am I and what will I do with that? And, you know, these things are always much deeper than we perhaps think that they are based on what the internet tells us. But today, I want to ask you some questions in terms of your next chapter, in terms of planning your personal brand, and ask you, what are you being drawn to at the moment? What are the things that perhaps you're always Googling or thinking about? Or maybe it's something as simple as saying to yourself, gosh, I'm really feeling that need to be outside at the moment. Or I've noticed that I'm buying this kind of food at the moment. Or I really notice, I don't know, that I had a moment a little while ago where I was like, oh, I'm really drawn to the colour yellow at the moment. And I suddenly started buying cushions, and then I ordered something else. And then I was like, oh, I like that vase. Oh, I'll go for the yellow one again. And sometimes it's just paying attention to what's going on. Also, I want you to think about what excites you. So I know sometimes during the last few months, for example, people are like, I cannot wait to sit in a beer garden, and that's really exciting to do those kind of normal things. But I want you to think about what that is for you. Forget what society tells you. Forget what is seemed to be exciting and adventurous and all of those things, and think about what that is for you. Knowing those draws, knowing those colors, those shades, those sights, those sensory things, you'll be able to make sure that you're actually having more of those. So sometimes when I've done this exercise myself, I'm like, oh, I love doing X, Y, and Z. And then I look at my calendar or I look at my diary and I go, but I haven't prioritized that at all, or I haven't done anything anywhere near that for the last 3 years. Why then am I not doing that? Why is there that disconnect? I also want to ask you, and the irony is not lost on me, where do you need to ask more questions? So one of the things that has certainly happened for me in lockdown, especially, is I've become more tired and more irritable than normal. And this is not with my clients necessarily, but by the end of the day, I am absolutely exhausted. And asking more questions, for example, around that has led to some conversations that I've had with myself in terms of the way that I run my business. Sometimes I've then gleaned more information about the timelines I need to have in place. So ask yourself in terms of your own planning. So this is why we're doing this work, because it's all very well somebody saying, I want to be financially free and flexible so I can pick up my children, or whatever the standard things are that we see on the internet, but really go in deep for you and go, what actually excites you? What makes you feel good? Why are you doing what you do? Also, where do you switch off? I wish that I was better at this, but I'm just not. I don't know if it's an age thing, but I become really intolerant of things. Something like Love Island, for example, I just can't watch it because I know there's all sorts of memes going around about like, no, give me the juicy, deep stuff. Like, that's the conversation that I want to have. I don't want to listen to small talk. I think that our time on this planet is precious. And yeah, so those sorts of things, really noticing where you switch off, where you become bored, where you're like, this just doesn't feel good. Paying attention to what your gut tells you will also inform what kind of personal brand that you're going to have. So for example, me knowing that I don't want to be generic or just tell people that want to speak positively or, any of those sorts of things means that when I'm hired as a speaker, that I'm in a way going to cut through the crap, or that I'm going to say things in a different way rather than just doing what everybody else has done. Finally, today's question is, what do you keep coming back to? What is that niggle? What is that almost alarm or that notification or that thought or that idea or that sensation? What do you keep coming back to? I want you to look at it and give it some attention and have a conversation with it and go, what is this thing? What's happening? Why do I keep thinking that I want to write a book on this? And then why don't I do anything about it? So again, it could be those ideas that have been shelved for a while. I want you to ask more questions about these things and go, why is this not happening? Or what way could I make this easier? How could I progress in this way? And invite yourself to turn up the brightness. Imagine it like a dial. And sometimes what can happen when I'm really struggling with something or I can't quite get to the bottom of what it is, I use the analogy or the visual, I guess, of a dial. And if I'm still not getting the answer that I need, I go, right, I'm just going to turn it up a little bit more of a notch, turn the brightness up on it. Okay, am I getting more answers? No, I need to go a bit further. I need to bring it up to the, whoa! Sometimes there's that moment like, my eyes, too bright. I'm not ready to go there. And that's why that incremental visual of a dial will really support you in getting the answers that you're acquiring. So as always, thank you so much for listening to this. All the details are down below for you to follow along. I will be back with you tomorrow for day 4. Thanks for listening, sending lots of love, and speak to you soon. Bye.